you know, David can't change what's happened in the past.
Right.
And, but what I do think can happen right now is a word that's coming up for me is the word care.
Mm.
And when I heard you say that you're not feeling it from him, just kind of my intuition is that, of course, David was reflecting back the words, but it's hard when we feel defensive. When the human being feels defensive, it's hard for us to drop into our heart. And so what I do believe is that David does deeply care for you. And whether or not his actions have matched the way that you want for that care to be shown, obviously in some ways it hasn't. But I do believe and trust that in this moment, David could express from his heart his care for you, and maybe what your heartful response is when you hear how angry this woman that you love, that loves you, feels. I mean, can you access kind of the feelings, your heartful connection to that piece, just as a way to connect more deeply?
I can move towards it. Frankly, my response is that I feel extremely guarded, and I'm in an inward state of separating and distancing from you, Karen. So that's you're seeing that accurately. I respect you. I do love you, and I do value our relationship, and I do care about you. And I do care about our communication here today. Is there some part of what you want that is not in that? I feel as though you really want me to... It's actually really tough for me to fully empathize with you, because I really do have my response to what you said. I get that it's extremely upsetting for you when you experience me in those ways. I'm pretty angry myself that you experience me in those ways so regularly, when I'm not always seeing eye to eye to how you characterize me and how you see me. And I'm really exhausted and fatigued and upset and at the level of anger that comes towards me when you experience me in those ways. That's what's present for me.
While you reflect on that, it probably is a good time for you to, and I used this word when we talked about it the other day, as a time of reflection. There is some separation that's happening. I would encourage both of you to avoid using that word, because it's such a trigger word. You know, because most of the time when we hear separation oftentimes leads to a perception of abandonment, disconnection. And what's true is that patterns have gotten in place that both of you want to change. And something you just said that's really true also is that she no longer sees you the way you want to be seen, and she's not experiencing you the way you want to be experienced.
It's not about want, it's about accurate.
Okay. Accurate has a right or wrong.
And it's not like she moved from a place in the past where she was seeing me where I wanted to be seen, and then like some loss of an idealism on her part. At least that's what I was reading into what you're saying. Well, that's probably coming from me.
Yeah, I mean, I think in relationship, when our needs are met, we feel fulfilled. When our needs aren't met, we get disappointed, and we get angry, we get pissed off.
Right.
And that's what's happened.
Right.
She has precious needs that haven't been met.
There you go.
And you have needs that haven't been met.
That's true.
And henceforth, then what happens is we start to see this person that we loved, that we were holding in a high esteem, in a way that, again, isn't the way that, I mean, certainly we always want, especially for our partner, especially for our lover, to mirror back the good stuff, the juicy stuff.
Right.
And when they're mirroring back, whether it's our legitimate shadow side
Right.
that we need to look at, which
Right.
is true to some degree,
Absolutely.
or just their disappointment or anger that they have precious needs that aren't being met, it becomes uncomfortable for both. And that's a good time to pull back, take space,
Right, that's good.
and reflect on, okay, to
Yes.
what degree is this my shadow side that's being reflected that I need to take responsibility for? And to what degree is it the other person's stuff? And it's probably a little bit of both. It's almost always a little bit of both.
Okay.
And so if we can, again, just keep it out of the right, wrong place
Right.
and into, because you're both intelligent, you're both aware, and you both have a lot of love and care for each other. If you can look at this as a time that you're both going to reflect, and I've seen you both do this individually and collectively on, okay, how much of this is my stuff, and how much of this is very real things that happened where agreements were made and not kept. And you know, both things are true. And it's going to require some conversation and some clarity, but also you'll get most out of it by your own inner self-reflection and then coming back. Like we talked about before, how much stronger it is when you come forward and say, I realize I did this, or how meaningful it was to you when Karen acknowledged something that she recognized that she had been doing, that you didn't have to point it out to her. She came to the table and said, I see that I've done this.
That was
very powerful.
Very powerful for me.
Yeah.
That was.
So it's always stronger when we come to it, the other person mirrors it to us, and then we can kind of come back to the table saying, I really see this is my stuff.
Well, I'd like to give her that in return, and in the general balance of our process, I feel like that's due, that's forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment of our process, I'm not ready to do that at this moment. I have a new stack. I'm not feeling my most generous. I'm really feeling guarded today, and that's not about the filming. It's really about what's up today
Between us.
between us.
And I appreciate your authenticity.
Yeah,
I mean, it's better to be real than
Sure.
to just bullshit your way through it.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if I can respond. I'll let you know that when you feel it's in the flow, I have a response to things that she said.
Okay. Are you in a place to hear the response? I mean, obviously,
My first thought was this is right exactly where, like, if you could, you know, I see it sort of as like a river, or, you know, a confluence of two creeks coming into the river, and there's Karen and then there's David and David's experience, and that, like, this is exactly where our issue is, because my experience is that I'll say something and then David wants to fight it. So it can be twisted into whatever NVC, you know, like, but it gets into like, well, now, you know, so, I mean, I can hear, but then it's like, okay, so what are we going to do about it? Because my concern is that okay, so now he's going to respond, and I'm just wary of that, because then it's like, it's sort of the rebuttal. It's like this whole, you know, my turn, your turn, let's, like, why don't we just come to some kind of solution? So, but maybe this is the process of getting to a solution.
Are you saying that I'm saying why don't we come to some solution by rebutting, or are you saying that you'd rather we come to some solution rather than me, as you say, rebutting?